One of the highlights of this year's Melbourne Documentary Film Festival is a film called The Great White Whale. And it's my great pleasure to be speaking to the director of that film, Michael Dillon. Michael, welcome to Movie Metropolis.
Thank you, Peter. Good to be here.
This is such a beautifully shot film set around Heard Island. Tell me about the inspiration behind making this film.
Well, I better explain what it's about because it's a strange title
Yeah.
and also probably an unknown name, Heard Island. Well, Heard Island is halfway between Australia and Africa, and on it is Australia's highest mountain, 500 meters. It's an Australian territory. That mountain is 500 meters higher than Kosciuszko, and so my film's really about these expeditions that happened 60 years ago to attempt to climb it. And I was very young at the time, and I knew some of the people. I was a teenager, and I helped them prepare their boat, and the boat was needed to sail for 4 months to get there. So I've known about it for a long time. Those people since have become great friends, and it was an extraordinary story that I felt needed to be told in film, as a film.
Okay, so tell me about the making of it and as you say, the title, The Great White Whale, which is a slight misnomer, I suppose.
It's the title is it's a great white whale because those people tried twice to climb that mountain. The mountain looks like a great white whale jutting out 3,000 meters out of the sea, and they called it that because it looks like one, and also because they felt like Captain Ahab. They wanted to go back and have another attempt at it. So, my film was a narrative film in that they sit down in armchairs and talk about their attempts to climb this mountain. And the interesting thing about this film is that one of them is that he was just talking, got up and sang these 10 wonderful songs he composed about this trip, which he had undertaken as a 22-year-old. He was 70 something when he actually sat up and sang these songs. So my aim was to make it a film where they tell the stories, but we had this additional element of one of them actually singing like an old sort of Viking saga. And in a sense, it was an extraordinary. They were extraordinary men, and it was an extraordinary feat that they tried to achieve 60 years ago.
How interesting and fascinating. Now, the film is beautifully shot. So tell me about the actual shooting procedure and the great images you're able to get.
Well, at the time, they took two cameras down, and they were old Bolexes. You know, those days, 60 years ago, when you had this I had to wind up the camera for 12 seconds, and then you got 12 seconds of footage out of it. And of course, the most important thing always happened on the 11th second, and when the camera stopped. So, despite all these, they would sail down through the rougher seas, and they also had a difficult climb. Despite that, they had that camera with them, and they shot quite a bit of film on the old Kodachrome film stock, which has stood the test of time brilliantly. In other words, you can now get that scanned up to 4K resolution, and it looks as well. I've seen it on the biggest cinema screen, and you can't see any grain. It looks as though you're actually there. It's so realistic. I myself started my own filmmaking career in those days, shooting on 16mm film, and I've done that same sort of technique of getting things scanned up to 4K, and that's not enough. Of course, you need a good narrative as well, and these 10 men we interviewed really provided that.
Okay, so tell me about fashioning the story and telling the story in the film, and also any financing or background that you had to be able to make the film.
Well, we did the initial interviews about 10 years ago, uh, then they just sat in their boxes until I was still busy making other films and filming other people's films and making cinema feature of my own about Edmund Hillary. And so about 3 years ago, I decided this is the moment that I needed to honour these old friends and their achievement, and we just got on with starting to make a story out of it. I put all the interviews into order and worked with a brilliant editor that I worked with a lot before, and I mentioned that one of them had sung all these songs, so we got Paul Jarman, a great composer, on board to just add to enhance his songs of instrumental background, and also to add a lot more. So yeah, basically it evolved like that, just working out how the story is best told over the two expeditions, gathering together all the footage they took, and I went to Heard Island myself, so I got some additional sort of environmental images too. As for finance, well, again, it was self-funded. A lot of the work, of course, involves time, and I just sat in front of my computer for a long time working out the general structure, free of charge, because but then, of course, and then the costs evolved. I wanted to keep this to myself. I didn't want to sort of involve anybody else. And so we basically self-funded it, and that's been a huge output. But I owed it to these people, and that's where it stands. We have a finished documentary feature, and it's trying to get back. Eventually, it cost us about $180,000 to do. We've got $20,000 back already on European prize money, because there's a lot of mountain and adventure film festivals, and it's won the grand prize in a few of them early this year. So and then it'll be a matter of just trying to forward it, the old system of hiring cinemas and finding an audience to more than pay for the cost of the hire. So that's the plan. We haven't got a distributor. We don't think we'll get one. So that's where it stands. It's a very much a sort of homegrown project, and the distribution's the same. But I'm speaking for not myself, but a lot of others of us are in the same position.
Okay. Well, good luck with that, because I think there are some streaming services and so on that might be very interested in your film.
Yes, well, I think the first step is for all of us, we try cinema first.
Yeah.
Because if it's on anything else, no one will come and see it in the cinema. And it's got a surround. We've made a cinema quality. We've got a good surround soundtrack, and it sounds wonderful in the cinema. It's a great musical score. I'm just saying that because it is, not because I'm trying to promote it. And so we're trying to do the most we can in cinemas first, and then see what happens after that.
Okay. And it's great that the film has been selected, of course, for the Melbourne Documentary Film Festival.
The Cinema Nova's a great place for screening. I'm looking forward to. We had a test screening there about November, but it was not quite finished, and the sound. I mean, the cinema sound is wonderful, and it's great. And I appreciate the Documentary Festival for allowing us to have our films shown under the best conditions possible.
Yes, absolutely right. Now, you also have a narrator in the film. Tell me about making those decisions.
It's the same. The narrator is actually the same man that did all the singing. So he, in a sense, became the voice of the expedition, and he filled in. Some of it was straight from the interview, but then we got together and we worked out how we did all the bridging narrations, but in his own voice. So he did those as well. So it all flows from the beginning to the end. So yeah, it was again a consultative process. He was in New Zealand, so I had a few trips across there to make the most of that. But yeah, as I said, he was a 22-year-old apprentice expeditioner at the time, and like all of them, this has meant a great deal. Anyone who sees the film will realise just what an extraordinary experience it was for anybody who took part in it.
Yes, absolutely. No, well done. That integration works really well. Now, with all the archival footage that you have, the current footage, photos, etc., the editing process must have been an interesting one for you. Can you talk about that?
It was a very, very big job. But I've worked with Michael Dillon, who some of you might, he's been an editor for, well, I've been in this business for 50 years and so has he, and we've done a lot together, and he is a brilliant editor. So between us, I must admit, I did put a lot of personal time into this as well. So it's not a rush job. We really tried the very best to make the very most of what the assets we had.
Okay, well, again, it's come up really well, so congratulations on that. I'm interested in your background, Michael. You mentioned you've made a documentary on Edmund Hillary, and you've made many other films. Tell me about your film background.
Well, when I was about 19, I went on a trek in the Himalayas, and it was actually run or led by the same person who was an expedition leader of the expeditions to climb the Great White Whale. I was very young, and he still had with him in Nepal that exact same camera he used that I've just described, the Bolex wind-up, and he got altitude sickness, and and the Sherpas were carrying him down on a stretcher, but he still kept filming. So the camera was handed to me. The Sherpa said they don't want to, they're happy to carry him, but not him and his camera. The camera was handed to me, and that was the very first time I'd used a camera. I think I've been inclined to, I had some inclination to be interested in filming because when I was about 13, I used to make them out of paper. I made a film called The History of the Earth, colored by using paper and making frames and coloring it in Wado and pencils. And so, and I had built a Meccano cinema that I played this through to my parents and sister and dog. And so I had some, the impact of seeing my first film when I was about 8 it really hit me that, so when this man handed me a camera at the age of 19 to help continue filming his trek in Nepal, I really loved that. And then 3 years later, I did my own film in the Himalayas, and it got sold to the BBC. And that's when I first heard about this trip up the Ganges with Sir Edmund Hillary. And I wrote to him, and I got that job. And so, having done that, it was easy for me to get other jobs. I got selected to film the first Australian Everest expedition, and then I did, and I, in a sense, became a documentary cinematographer. And this is going back now 50 years. So between now and then and now, I've done about 10 films of my own. When I get passionate about a particular subject, I decide to make a documentary of it. And of course it's cheaper because I don't have to pay a cinematographer because I am one. And I'm happy to spend a lot of time in front of an editing machine, just thinking about structure and all that. So yeah, I'm thinking I'm a bit like, I'm fairly independent. I just like to work on my own, and no one knows who I am. I have no profile, but I've just sort of been quietly working away.
Okay, well done though, doing all those films and nature and environmental films. That's terrific. With the Great White Whale, product placement. I noticed Kellogg's features in the film.
Well, product placement. I should tell the story that they were, when they went on their 4 months voyage, they got Kellogg's to they asked for various food providers to give them some food, and Kellogg's gave them a huge amount of packets of food, but it had so much volume they decided to stomp it all down. They crushed it all into a well, a manageable amount, and it all went very well. In fact, they saved their ship with it because the ship was about to get rust because of the banging of certain sort of thing on the deck, and they made a mixture out of this Kellogg's cornflake concentrate, which they call clogs, and with concrete and water and solve the problem. So we wouldn't call it product placement, because I'm not daring to tell Kellogg's that the film, I'm not sure they got a sense of humor or not. So so in other words, they didn't pay me. I'm just scared to tell them we even mentioned what they did with Kellogg's cornflakes.
That's a great story. I love it. That's wonderful. Now, with all the wildlife and Heard Island and how treacherous it looks navigating the area, filming, contemporary filming must have been, apart from the obviously the archival filming that was undertaken, must have been quite difficult.
It was. I went down there on a voyage about 12 years ago and the trouble with Heard Island is so hard to land on that even if you travel all that way, you're not too sure if you can even land. But I managed to, just for about on cumulative about 8 hours, and you run around with the camera trying to film as much as you can. I mean, there's a lot to film. There are penguins all over the place, and elephant seals, and of course the beautiful, or I'd say beautiful, the extraordinary beauty of really rough seas on the way there and back. And so I managed to get a bit of supplementary material from that voyage. But yeah, it is so remote. It's very rarely visited. It's just so far away that it is very hard, and there's very little archival footage on Heard Island.
Mm. How interesting, and people will be fascinated because not many people will know about Heard Island and about the great white whale.
Oh, it's so beautiful. It's you imagine Mount Fuji coming straight out of the sea. It's this 3,000 meter volcano. It's just it's kind of almost a surreal place, but it does exist, and it's Australian territory, and as I said, on it is Australia's highest mountain.
Yes, yes. Again, how interesting to learn all of that. So, Michael, are you planning another film at the moment?
I've just done two back to back. I did another similar one where people sit back and talk about the Hillary ocean to sky jet boat expedition that I myself filmed 50 years ago. So I've just done that, and now this one. It's almost 7 years of pretty intensive work. So I'm not allowed to make another one, not another documentary feature anyway. And also the whole business of trying to market them is very hard if you're doing it by yourself. We've got screenings coming up in Western Australia and Tasmania, and it takes a lot of work when, again, you're working alone to try and find strategies to fill the cinemas and so on by using Facebook and other means and local contacts. So I'm still very much involved in doing what we can with the great white whale.
Well, congratulations on the film. It deserves a broader audience, and certainly at the Melbourne Documentary Film Festival, it will get that. And I wish you success with getting the film off the ground in terms of perhaps some distribution or some cinema screenings. It certainly deserves it. It's a great looking film. We've been
Thank you,
speaking.
Peter.
Yeah, we've been speaking to Michael Dillon, the director of The Great White Whale, screening as part of the Melbourne Documentary Film Festival 2024. Michael, thanks so much for talking with me.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, all the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.